my mom loves babies and when we go to Starbucks. And so she'll sit there, and if someone comes in, she'll take her walker, she'll roll up to them and she'll stare. And it's no big deal. People say, oh, beautiful baby all the time. But with her, the way she is now with the dementia, she doesn't have the kind of self-awareness to be like, well, 10 seconds of gushing is enough. It's going to get awkward after that. So she'll sit there for 20, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And this is a great lesson to me, is that I don't know what it is to a person, everyone where she's done that, they don't get weirded out. They just sense something's different with mom, and they see her big fat smile and how much the joy the baby's bringing to her. So I, rather than have my non-dementia, middle class, proper social contract in me, which says, you say, gush, what a beautiful baby. You look for 2 seconds, and then you say, have a good day, and you leave. Mom doesn't have that anymore. So if I can just be with her, and I realize it's my issue, I'm the one who's uptight about how they might respond. These people, like I just said, have no issue with it. Of course, you're complimenting their baby. Who doesn't want to have their baby complimented? And if it goes a little long, they get it. So that is something where I have to enter her reality, and then just let it go and don't get uptight about it.
Welcome to the AlzAuthors podcast. We're so glad you found us. We're the global community of authors writing about Alzheimer's and dementia from personal experience to light the way for others. I'm Marianne Sciucco, a registered nurse, author, and dementia daughter.
And I'm Christy Byrne Yates, a licensed educational psychologist, dementia daughter, Al's author, and coach focused on the sandwich generation. Please join us for bi-weekly episodes with our authors as we talk about their dementia journeys, sharing intimate details and painfully obtained knowledge to help others currently on that path.
We hope these stories offer you comfort and support as we strive to break the silence and stigma surrounding a dementia diagnosis.
May one of our authors speak to your experience.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to AlzAuthors Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia podcast. Hello, Christy. How are you today?
I'm doing great. And I'm excited about this episode. This was so much fun. We had a ball with this one.
Mm-hmm.
We are bringing in another fiction author, so that's exciting too.
Yay!
Yeah, and a son caring for his mother. So and you know what was cool about this one is like we laughed so much, and yet there was so much poignant, really good stuff for caregivers in there. So it's a great show with a new interesting author, Alfredo Botello, really cool, Spin Cycle, and it's a great book. So that's cool.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He's a architect by trade. I guess that was his first career, and he moved into writing, screenwriting, and he's a novelist and a caregiver, currently caregiving.
And he owns a dive bar. I love that too.
Yeah, a dive
that we
bar,
hear
so.
about at the end.
So we need to get out to California to meet him so that we can visit the dive bar. That would be fun.
That's right. It was a fun conversation. So I think really you're going to enjoy this episode. And upcoming, we always have fun things coming up, and coming up very soon on Books and Chit Chat is we're going to interview one more of our founders, Jean Lee. So that will be really terrific to talk about her book, and So really excited to have that one. So that'll be coming up in June, which is just around the corner.
Yeah,
And
we're reading Alzheimer's Daughter.
that's right.
That's the
Yeah.
name of her book, and it's her memoir of caring for two parents with dementia at the same time. She has a very
Yeah.
unique story, and the book is brilliant and it's very moving. And I think readers will appreciate it. And that meeting is on June 24th, and we meet at 2 p.m. on Zoom.
Right.
So if you want to attend, visit the website, AlzAuthors.com, and you can find the link to sign up to make sure you get the link to the meeting, because it's by invitation only.
Yes. And what's nice is that kind of rounds out our books and chit chat with all of our founding authors. And what's cool about that is we are in our 10th anniversary. So we have fun things coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the interesting things we've got going?
Well, we do have a giveaway going, which we want people to take advantage of and enter the giveaway. It's on the website, it's on the homepage, you'll find it. And we're giving away every month a mini custom caregiver collection. So a custom caregiver collection is an assortment of books that we work with the buyer to come up with a little library of books that are specific to their situation or their interests. And so the mini one is just like 3 books on a topic. The winner gets to choose which topic they're looking for, and they will receive these books in the mail. So
That's great.
put your name in, because
Yeah.
you might win. And even if you don't want to read them or you don't need them, you can give them to someone who does.
Absolutely. They make great lending libraries. Yeah. Fantastic. That's cool.
We've given away 3 already.
Oh, cool.
Fourth one will be on its way. So yeah.
And then this fall we have some really fun things coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those?
Yes. Now, for a very long time, I've been wanting to do a film festival, because we have a number of filmmakers in our collection, authors
Yeah.
and people who have made films, short films, hour-long films, all about dementia and caregiving. So we have brought a few of them together, and we'll be putting on a program in the fall, maybe late summer. And how it will work is you will receive a link to watch the film at your own convenience, and then we will all meet at a prearranged time to have the discussion with the creator of the film. So some of the people who will be joining us are Frank Silverstein, who did the short film Lousy, Love in the Time of Dementia, about his parents who both had dementia at the same time. And we have C. Nathan Brown, who did a movie called The Present, which takes place at Christmas and is about grief and dealing with the loss of a loved one to Alzheimer's disease. And we have Mary Crescenzo, who made a brilliant film called Life on Planet A, that I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. And then Kitty Norton, who did Wine, Women, in Dementia, will also be joining us. So we're really
Wow.
excited to have all of these filmmakers, and we are still waiting to hear from one more who is not confirmed. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah, and what's really neat is that Al's Authors is as a promoting the work of authors who've written books of poetry, fiction, nonfiction. And then we have our podcast, and now we're bringing in film, because all different mediums really help caregivers connect to other people's journeys, to their own journey, to information. And I just think it's great that we're bringing in then a film festival, because it's just another way to push this, to have people understand more about dementia and the impact on families and the whole piece. So that's great. It's really exciting.
Yep. So keep your eye on your inbox so that you will be among the first to know when the film festival starts happening.
Yes, very exciting.
All right.
Okay, so let's get to the show. This is a great one. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia. We're so excited you're here, and we have a great new author to introduce you to. And this is Alfredo Botello, who's written a really wonderful fiction story called Spin Cycle, and we're going to hear more about that. I want to let you tell us more about that, Alfredo. I also want to welcome Ruth Stevens, one of our management team members, who was the acquisitions editor. So I'm actually going to start with Ruth. Oh, and Marianne, hi, you're here too. Hey,
I'm here.
everybody's in the house. It's great. I want to start with Ruth because I want you, Ruth, to tell us, as an acquisitions editor, you read new possible books, and something about this book delighted you, and you said, "This is somebody we need in our family." So, can you tell us a little bit about what you found in Alfredo's book?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. For starters, we don't get as many fiction submissions as I would like to see us get. I think there are more people out there writing caregiver guides and to some degree memoirs and things like that, which are all valuable. But fiction plays a kind of a different role and affects the reader in a different way. I think we're all going to talk about that a little bit more. So I found that the fiction submissions we get, most of the fiction I've read that deals with dementia, including my own book, tend to be family dramas or sometimes dramedies. Like my book incorporates humor, and some do, but some are really quite serious throughout. But Alfredo's book was really like an original voice. I've never read anything like it. He had a unique premise, which do you want to explain that, Alfredo? Because you can explain it better than I do. But the pop-up school. But I will
Sure.
say first that this book is really about the caregivers more than the dementia patients. It's about the caregivers, but it just comes at the subject from a whole different perspective, and it's very real and very at times very emotional and heartbreaking, but it's also just really funny. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
how did you come up with? Tell us the premise and how you came up with it.
sure. So the protagonist is a guy named Ezra Pavich, and he is at the end of his rope. His personal life is collapsing. His wife has left him. He's estranged kind of from his son, and caring for mom who has dementia is totally overwhelming. So his day job is he's a high school math teacher. So for him, it felt kind of natural. Well, how am I ever going to get better as a caregiver? What am I going to do? And he decides, well, I'm a teacher. I'm going to open a school. But his school is not some exalted Ivy League white column place. He finds a strip mall with a short-term lease, something he can afford, and he opens up APPA, Adults Patiently Parenting Adults. He calls it an academy. It's really more academy/support group. And he just is shocked to find that 9 other misfits who are also struggling and full of guilt and shame and resentment show up to the first class. So this kicks off the school, and there's 6 sessions and what happens afterwards. And we get to meet all these people, hear their stories, their different viewpoints, what's gone on. That's the setup of the school he starts.
It's like I say, I've never seen anything or read anything quite like it.
I
And
love that. I love
yeah.
that premise. That's really cool.
Yeah.
An interesting setup. How did you come to decide on that as opposed to anything else?
I have a soft spot in general for people on the margins and people who are just kind of hustling to get through life, to make a dollar, this kind of thing. And it happens in my own real life. One of my favorite sushi places is in a kind of rundown strip mall. And I just love the crazy variety of stores that are sitting cheek by jowl. So it is car insurance for somebody who can't be insured. It's the clothing store with knockoff Gucci. It's the vape shop that also sells mangoes. I just love all of that together. And so I have a soft spot for that. And it's kind of in my nature to gravitate that way rather than say he goes to the administration of his own school and say, can I rent out our auditorium, or I go to the local junior college? Can I get some space there? That would be maybe the kind of more, I don't know, maybe traditional or kind of straight way to do something, but I'm always drawn to that kind of thing. And I just think those kinds of settings, like the setting of the mini mall, is without being banana peel slip joke funny, which is not my type of humor, is inherently funny. You don't have to even really say much more about it. You just set that context. And I do try to inject, no matter what I'm writing, no matter how heavy, some degree of grounded humor. And that to me was just and having said all that, there is just the aspect of intuition and gut instinct. And somehow that felt right to me. Yeah.
So you are a screenwriter, are you not? Or
I am.
also a screenwriter, I should say. Were you thinking like a screenwriter when you wrote this, or were you wearing a different hat? Because I could just picture it, especially in those scenes at the academy.
Yeah.
I could just picture that on a TV series or something. Uh,
It seeps in. It's not conscious, but after 25 years of being a professional screenwriter, I think, and this also goes for my first novel, it's almost inevitable that there is going to be there are scenes that are just going to feel maybe cinematic, and the way I get in and out of scenes might feel that way. I'm not even thinking. I think it just happens, and hopefully I tell stories which fit that. But then getting away from screenwriting, and the reason I started the novels is screenwriting is a very circumscribed format. You have 120 pages. There's very stringent rules about scene description, dialogue, how long the whole thing can be. That's all very prescribed. And the novel gave me the freedom to explore my prose a lot more. And I'm very, very picky and fussy about language, which doesn't really matter, but it does matter, but not as much in screenplays. And I could do things like inner monologues, which of course are a big no-no in screenplay land. You can't really do that. So it gave me some freedom to flex some different muscles and try some things that I can't try. So yes, there's definitely a screen writer in me in that novel, but there's also the fact that it's prose and it's a different animal, and I love that about it.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. And I think it's really, you kind of gave yourself this device to be able to explore so many different aspects of caregiving and how it might impact people, correct? I mean,
That's
what
right.
is,
So,
yeah.
so part of the choice to even have a school is because in an alternate universe, I could tell the story of just Ezra as he
Right.
struggles dealing with his mom, and maybe you'd get some interaction. He has a brother who's a very important figure in the novel. He has his sort of ex-wife. They're not quite divorced yet. His son. There's a few people he interacts with, but when I placed it in a kind of, and it's as Ruth was sort of suggesting, this over-exalted term academy. It's really just 1,200 square feet of stucco and drywall. But when you do that, then you have as many students as you want. I could have had 4 or 5. I happen to pick 9. And that allowed me to put out 9 different mini stories within the story. So they each in their moment, they each have at least one good big moment where they can share what's going on in their lives. And then, of course, for me, there's just the joy of them interacting,
Yeah.
back and forth, sniping and criticizing and supporting each other. And I couldn't have done that with just one person. So the fictional element and having kind of an ensemble cast allowed me much more freedom to explore different people, and that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so can I ask, were these 9 people, or is it 10 including
It would be
Ezra?
10,
Okay.
including Ezra, yeah.
So are these 10 sides of yourself? Were these people expressing something that you had found as someone walking this journey? How did they relate to you? I'm just curious.
Bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So Ezra is closest to who I am and the feelings I had, and even specific moments that happen in my real life with mom, which I put on the page. The others, they're like they're aspects of me that I wish I could kind of explore. Some of them are more the wild id.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't care about good manners. They get in physical fights with their parents. Others are, I was raised Catholic, but I'm not religious really. But there is a true believer among the group, and I love to hear what he has to say about it and how believing in a God and a tradition helps him cope with mom. And then there's complete atheists in the group who, we're just worm food. And all of that, those are things that maybe in the back of my mind I wonder about, but I could flesh them out a bit more and have them in the story. But really, I'm mostly Ezra.
Yeah. That's really interesting. That's so interesting. Um, so maybe you could also tell us a little bit about your own dementia journey and how you, like, I wonder, was this book a way for you to process some of that, or maybe it was just some, it gave you an idea. But we do want to hear a little bit about your dementia journey because
Sure.
many of our listeners are on a dementia journey, and this is a connection we like to make. But so yeah, if you're willing to tell us a little bit about yours, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
and really, in a way, I kind of think we've almost buried the lead for the first few minutes because This is the book I wish I had 5 years ago with Mom. I was totally blindsided and overwhelmed by the changes in her. And it was all exacerbated because my stepdad, her husband of 27 years, had passed. And I think looking back now, I think he had been kind of a caregiver to her and had been compensating. He was physically declining, she was maybe cognitively declining, and he was taking care of that piece of her and she was taking care of the other piece of him. So they were a unit, and that it all kind of came to a head when he passed. But I had already seen signs, and I didn't know what was going on. This is the thing. I, I feel like the world primes us for having kids, right? Like little kids play with Barbies and GI Joes. Well, those are grown up dolls, but they're the kid version of dolls. And we just TV ads, sitcoms are all centered around, oh yeah, families with teenage kids. It's like we all know we can never get married, have a kid these days, maybe afford a house, maybe not. All those things are in the soup. But I felt like if somebody had been talking about the fact that in my 50s I would have another child, only this one would be about 80 years old and not so cuddly and can be kind of a little bit cantankerous at times and also wonderful. I missed that memo. I had no idea this was coming, and I feel it's this criminally under-discussed chapter of life, which
Yeah.
is caring for your parent. And I was ashamed and guilt-stricken by the things I did with my mom. I was not patient. I was not kind with her in the beginning. I was snappy. I was condescending. It was awful. And this book allowed me to kind of work out some of those feelings. And if nothing else, if someone picks up this book, reads any single page, paragraph, sentence, I don't care, and thinks, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only terrible son or daughter out there. Because that's how I think we all have some of those feelings. And we have to kind of work on that and partly forgive ourselves and partly improve. And like I say, this is the book I really wish I had 5 years ago. I think it would have brought, if it brings somebody just a little comfort, then I've done my job.
Wow. Well, you said a mouthful, and I just have to say,
Sorry, I went off there.
no. Really good stuff. I mean, just to unpack a little bit, I can't tell you, and Marianne, chime in. How many of our authors say this? I wrote the book I wish I'd had. I mean, that's how I always start my interviews when somebody interviews me about my book. This is the book I wish I had had, because I had no idea what you were saying. Like, we kind of have an idea what to do with our kids, but we do not have this, we don't have this awareness any longer. We used to have it when we all lived intergenerationally, but we don't have that anymore, and we don't know what to do with these people. So it is very true. I'm so glad you said that, because this is what people will find in your book is, yeah, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one. And I can relate to not being nice to your parent. There were times when I was like, oh my God, I look back and I'm thinking in the context of I'm training my children how to be a horrible person to me when I'm at the end of my life. This is not good. I gotta change this.
Yeah, Mom, you already told me that 5 times, that sort of
Right.
thing.
Yeah, I've already joked with my grown sons that there's a provision in the will that they don't get a dime unless they visit me twice a week, but they have to do it cheerfully.
That's right.
And I don't know who's going to gauge that, but I just know I want that because I see, like, I wish I had been more of that. I think I'm better now, but boy, yeah, if I have to joke about it because it's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Building on what you were saying, Alfredo, whenever I read a guidebook, and I don't mean necessarily a caregiver guide, but any sort of guide that's telling me how to better manage some aspect of my life, it usually makes me feel bad about myself, kind of like it puts a spotlight on all the things that I'm doing wrong or not doing at all. And you actually deliver in this book a lot of the same messages, but in a totally turn it upside down and turn it into something that's a kind of like funny but sad but relatable, and where it gives a feeling of relief rather than like reinforcing the guilt. And I don't want to put down caregiver guides because they are valuable in many ways, but I think it's so valuable to have something like your book, which just takes it on with a whole different perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, I that was deliberate. I had the same reaction when I read the more the grounded reality-based how-to caregiver books. This just wow, I can never be as good as these people. They know when to walk away. They're good at the self-care. They're unbelievably patient. So I wanted to address the difficult emotions because I think that's what I wanted addressed all those years ago. So I really wanted to focus on more of the emotional stuff. Yeah, I think ultimately there are some practical tips that do seep through the students, but really it's that we all have these hard feelings and are trying to navigate them and just come out the other side.
Life is going on all around this situation and pulling us in different directions and different orbits. And we have situations with other people and work and our own healthcare, our own needs, our own interests. So it's like a real balancing act, and nobody's prepared to have this bomb drop on them. And it is like a bomb. It just blows everything up.
It absolutely does.
It changes everything for everybody.
Yeah, I had this crazy idea that when my kids were grown, I would have this before my aches and pains got so bad I couldn't take long flights anymore, and I'll do all those things. I was like, oh, great. Now I've got sort of this extended holiday. I can have a few years of enjoying myself. Nope. Now you got to take care of mom. So you're right. It is a bomb it is disruptive. I want to say also, I think it's not all bad. I think there are some things I've learned and maybe even some insights or things that have happened that are really positive. But yes, it's very hard. And it turns out to consume a lot of your life. That's true.
Yeah, it is a challenge, and it can make you a better person if you embrace it that way, which
Yes.
many people do. Many people are surprised at how strong they are and adaptable and compassionate. And many of them end up they do write a book and share the story, but so many of the authors actually go on to have some kind of a business or something associated to caregiving, or being like a support group leader, like a caregiver guru or a doula or whatever you want to call it. So lives are changed.
Right. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
not to point out the obvious, but you guys are an example of this, right? You've had this challenge and now you have a podcast about it. So you're
Yeah.
doing your thing to get the word out. You mentioned our Lance Slatton earlier. He turned his thing into a business. So people do what you say sometimes, which is they actually make it not just a burden to get through, but a kind of life's mission. And they kind of transform it. And I think that I really admire people who can do that.
Right. It puts a lot of meaning into the journey, because like a lot of people don't know when this is going to be over, and it's such a slog. And then when they come out the other side, they see what they've gained from it, and they want to share it. They don't want it to be locked up inside themselves, because what they've learned is going to benefit other people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
definitely.
And fiction is a great tool for that. Ruth and I have both written novels, and it allows you to explore a little bit more, not only of yourself, but maybe who you might have wanted to be during that time, and to offer people a soft landing place. If they are looking for information because it's in their life, or they're randomly browsing a bookshelf and come upon it and say, oh, this looks good. They don't really know anything about it. Now they've learned a lot about the disease process in a very soft way.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And I do feel like the other element that for me is I've always been a fiction reader, and that was something I shared with my mother. My mother did have Alzheimer's, but we were readers, and we read lots of stories, and we were also consumers of movies and TV series and things like that. That was like when we were butting heads when I was a teenager. I would still be willing to sit in the living room and watch, one of the miniseries that were on back in the 70s, because I wanted to watch it. And that's what we would talk about, because that's what we could talk about when we were butting heads. We could talk about, some of those things. But the thing about it is listen, when you write a nonfiction book and you're telling a memoir or whatever, sometimes it's a little sanitized, right? I mean, not always. Some people do a tell-all. I did not do a tell-all, but there were I sanitized some things for sure. I definitely talked about things I didn't do well, because I was like, okay, learn from my mistake, because this was a big wrong U-turn here. But that's what's so great about fiction, is that you can relate to these characters and you can hear from them, and see yourself in them. And I think that's what's wonderful. So it'll be exciting to read it and hear how your different characters manage and what
There,
they find.
there's a character of the brother.
Yeah.
There's the ne'er-do-well brother who's mom's favorite, and he's never helpful at all, but he'll sweep in at opportune moments and like
Mhm.
glom all the credit for everything that happens and
Ugh.
win her favor. And that's so relatable, I think, to so many people,
Mhm.
apart from dementia, whatever you're dealing with family.
Right.
Very, very relatable human
Yeah.
situation.
I,
Um,
I, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, go, no, what were you going to say? Are you going to tell us whether you have a real brother who's
Well,
like
actually, this is how you know it's fiction. I'm an only child.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't have a brother, but it's interesting. I want to just mention that when you mentioned that, I've done a couple of in-person book clubs, and to a person, everyone jumps on the Loomis question, the ne'er-do-well brother, so I think that's part of it. And I wanted to kind of tack onto some things that both Christy and Marianne were saying about fiction, which I think are right on the money. One is that you can kind of explore what sort of how you wish you were. And there are a couple of characters who, if I was some, fully realized guru on a mountaintop, maybe that's how I'd like to be a little bit. So there's an asterisk here, which is all of this is aspirational. I feel definitely like I'm a work in progress, and that's never going to end. So when I say things, please don't mistake it as, oh, I figured it all out. I haven't. I just try to, mirror what I think is out there. And then the other part is that, you don't, as Christy was saying, fiction, if you do have some part of you that wants to sanitize, and I'm a kind of reserved Virgo, so I probably would have sanitized some of my own stuff. But hey, if it's coming out of another person's mouth, let it rip, man. You can be as nasty or
Mhm.
nice as you like, and I can share, my reality plus 50% extra for dramatic purposes. So those are two freedoms and explorations about who you, maybe aspects of yourself that you could be and aspects of yourself that you want to share, but you maybe are a little bit too embarrassed. So those are good pieces to include. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
relate. In my book, I worked out a little personal guilt when I wrote that book because my narrator was this dedicated daughter and caregiver who just spent part of every single day with hours a day with her mom, and lived nearby. Whereas in real life, I was managing my mother's care from across the country and, just flying east every couple of months to spend a week. But so I could kind of pretend I was Barbara, the narrator, who did
So
all the things that I didn't do.
your twin Saint Barbara was on the
Right.
page, and you were across town. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, you talked about that humor is kind of your natural voice.
Mhm.
And so you knew it was going to be a humorous story. Was it difficult for you to get the balance? I mean, you certainly did nail the balance between humor and pathos, and was that difficult for you to do? And did you have beta readers to test it out to see if they felt that it was coming across both funny and sad? Uh,
Well, thank you for that, because it's very important to me that that the humor does come through. I can't say it was hard, but I can only say that because I've been writing since for 25 or 30 years. I think some of that tone you could even go back to, I don't know, some of my high school open assignment essays, and that's just, I think it's kind of who I am a little bit. I just kind of approach life. And in my better moments, I don't get uptight and angry about it, but I see its absurdity, and I'm able to kind of laugh at it a little bit. So, small example out of my own life, when I thought I was staying with my mom. This is when I was living with her as her primary caregiver. Every day I have a bagel and banana for breakfast, and I had bought bananas just the night before. And I got up in the morning and they were gone from the counter. I'm like, what, am I so distracted? Am I getting some kind of early dementia here? Like I really thought I put the bananas away, but I was like, and then kind of thinking nothing would come of it, I thought, well, I'll just ask mom. By this time she was already exhibiting signs. So I went to go ask her. I said, Mom, have you seen the bananas? And she goes, oh yeah, they're in the bedroom. They ripen better. And I just laughed. It was great. It was just this absurd moment, but not fake gag humor. It was just real because of where she was and then where I was in my worry. that she had started to put groceries away in the bedroom. I mean, and she had a reason, which is they ripen better. So like maybe she's even right. I don't even know. But I just thought that kind of stuff to me, it can either make you really depressed, thinking you've lost the person and that they're slipping and slipping, or you can see it's basically harmless what just happened, and it's kind of funny. And I love that she has a logic for it. So that's just a small example, and I think the book is shot through with that kind of a feel, that kind of a tone. Like I say, I'm into character generated, grounded humor. That's pretty realistic. So that kind of comes, like I say, I didn't have to try, but yes, I did try. It's been 30 years of writing that got me there. So yeah.
Well, and that scenario that you described, that, for someone who hasn't been through it or maybe is at a different place in their journey or whatever, laughing about something like that, might feel really like, oh, that's disrespectful. But you know what? It is funny. I mean, it's like the things that my parents said or did, I was like, what are we doing? This is like, the absurdity of it sometimes would make me laugh. And then it would make me cry because I'd be like, and here we are, but it's that laugh cry thing that is human, right? And so it's great to hear that you included a lot of that. I found that also in your book, Ruth, your characters, they were very funny. So I liked your sister interplay, and that was kind of interesting. So
yeah, I had a sister.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and you have a brother, Alfredo, so we'll have to look at that. So, yeah. Have you, I don't know, developed any other dementia themed material?
I have. So I contributed a chapter to this book called Wellness Through Words. There's this wonderful woman. Her name is Patricia Rulo. And she is just this tireless advocate of indie authors and caregiving. She's had lots of caregiving experience in her own life. And she kind of did the herding cat thing of getting, I want to say there's 20 or 25 chapters. So that's 20 or 25 writers. She pulled us all together and asked that each of us contribute a chapter on whatever we kind of knew best in terms of, wellness through words, right? What can you do about health? And that can be that's a huge spectrum. So I chose, and that's a piece of nonfiction. So if you want to read an anecdote about Mom and I, that's real. That's Alfredo and Lisa. It's in Wellness Through Words, which is this anthology, and that was great too for exactly that reason. I could tell just a completely true story, and there's a bit in there too about my son, because there's an experience with him also informed how I sort of learned to interact with Mom. So that's the other place where I've explored this stuff.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you. And so in your story and in your own life, what were some of your interactions with, like, all the things like home care? Did your mom stay at home, and did you have people coming in, or all of that interaction with other folks?
I think I've tried all of the above. So like I say, when my stepdad passed, and I mean, this is a whole other story, but he was in his late 80s, kidneys were failing. He attempted suicide twice unsuccessfully. I was there for one of the attempts, found him in the living room with blood on the floor. Again, it's a whole separate story. I know it's very intriguing probably, but just to say, all of that was very traumatic, especially for my mom, of course. And then once he did pass away, which, by the way, he did peacefully at home in a very beautiful way, really, actually, in the end, after all that kind of crazy turmoil. But then right after that, I moved in with her, and I was ping-ponging. So she's in the LA area, I'm in the Bay Area. So it was crazy. It was during COVID. So I was on all of these empty flights with just 2 or 3 people back and forth, because I could just see she was not in a place to be alone. And then as she seemed to get a little bit better, then I did try the part-time in-home person. So I would have someone go to her place, but she didn't like that really. And it didn't stop her from some of the, I guess I want to say kind of anxious behavior. Like if she felt her heart race a little bit, she would call 911 all the time. I mean, she practically had her own bed set up at the hospital. She should have anyway. And even when the caretaker came by, they would call me saying, your mom really wants to go to the hospital. What should I do? So I realized that wasn't a permanent solution. And then on top of it, when she lost her driver's license and a few other things, it's like, then how am I going to get her food? So I tried doing Instacart remotely. So I tried these things. That wasn't going to work. So finally, she agreed. It was that, and that itself was a whole process of I'm sure anyone who's feels like they needed the help of an assisted living, it's a battle. It can be a real battle because your loved one wants to maintain, understandably, like all of their independence. And there comes a time though where, again, basic stuff, going to the store, eating, cooking, all that becomes difficult. So she was in 3 different assisted care places before settling. And those one was in LA and 2 were in the Bay Area. Even a very nice place, which she had in LA, because I wasn't there and couldn't be there enough. Like, the lesson for me was not just about me, it's about the caretakers. The place is not nearly as important as the people. So she was in this, I mean, wonderful place in LA, like live piano music, multiple choices on the dinner menu, recessed, tasteful lighting. I mean, it looked like a really nice hotel. It was great. In fact, she called it the hotel. But the place she's now is not itself is not so swanky, but she's really connected with the people, and that's made all the difference. I could go into stories about how wonderful and amazing those people are. Maybe we will, but that's kind of the journey. So it went from living with my mom, being her primary caregiver, to trying to do it remotely with in-home folks, to now assisted living. So I think I've sort of tried almost a little bit of a sampler platter of the different things we try to do to take care of our loved ones.
Yeah, that you definitely hit all of them. And it
it's
is.
not, I was just going to say, it's not uncommon for families to have to go through multiple moves and situations which they are not prepared for or do not envision as being part of their reality. You think you finally got them settled in a place and phew, okay, now we can relax. And one reason or another, it doesn't work out for them. They're not a good fit. Their situation changes. They need to be in a more supervised setting, and it's a lot. And anybody who's ever moved knows how labor intensive and emotional it can be, especially trying to move somebody else's life in their house. So people go through this, 2, 3, or even more times, like you did.
Right. And just
They're
like you
not
said,
prepared for that.
moving alone with no other problems in your life, that already is a massive stressor.
Mhm.
So, compound that with all these other changes, it's difficult. And you touched on something too that I think has 2 sides to it, which is, yeah, there's many times where I thought I had something solved and figured out. Like, okay, her medication checklist is good. She understands it. We're done. She's in this one assisted living. It's clean. I like the people. Done. And it's not so. And that's tricky. I again, as kind of a neat freak, ordered Virgo, half German, like, I want things solved and I can walk away. But that's the double side, which is I've had to learn, and I think it's been part of the kind of the good thing for me. It just is to learn to let go, to not be so wedded to solutions. And really, it's kind of like the old sports metaphor. You take what the defense gives you. So you have to kind of loosen up. You got to be a little bit flexible and nimble, mentally and emotionally, and roll with it. Because with this disease, the progression is erratic. It's surprising. And if you get locked in to thinking you're done, you're just going to be miserable. So if the looser you can be, and I think for me, it's been it's been one of the bright sides of taking care of mom. The looser you can be, the happier you will be.
I mean, it's so true. As humans, we are constantly searching for homeostasis, right? We want things to stay the same. It's like, that's sorted, that's done. We got that, tick that box, right?
Yeah.
And yet nothing about life is static. Nothing. We change. I mean, our cells change overnight. I mean, it's just everything is changing. And we have not figured that out, that everything's. So this level of flexibility is not something that comes easily to us. And I think, so talking about that, what other kinds of changes have you found in yourself, and even through writing this book, about who you are as a person because of caregiving?
Yeah, the biggest thing, and I didn't know it when I started writing the book. So the protagonist loves palindromes, right? So Appa, the name of his academy, is itself a palindrome. He tells a story that when he was 10 years old, he figured out the word level and thought he was a genius. His dad said, "No, you're not a genius." But he just likes this stuff. And there is, this is a little bit of a giveaway, but I think it's okay to share because it is related to your question. So I don't know, halfway, 2/3 through the book, he comes up with, he knows it's not really a word, not really a palindrome, but it's mom, M-O-M, M-O-M. It's mom in the moment, because what he's realized when he's been with her over this course is that she is not hung up with rumination about the past. Her anxiety about the future is limited. She really is in the moment. So if she takes in the beach or the feel of sand between her toes or the sight of a flower or a cute baby, she is fully engaged and fully there. And I don't know of any spiritual or religious or philosophical tradition that doesn't acknowledge the value of trying to be in the moment and not let it be completely cluttered with our baggage. And I aspire to that myself, me, Alfredo, as a person. I want to be in the moment more. I want to take a walk and not just be thinking about the errand I have to do, but actually appreciating the walk itself, not just, oh, whether there's going to be a long line at the supermarket or the gas station. And why not just, it's so I discovered, like I say, only through the writing process, through Mom, but also through the development of this character that, wow, that it's not just he's teaching these other students how to become better caregivers. Mom, without even trying, is doing what he wants to do, which is live in the moment. And he finally lets enough of his anger and resentment go to understand and appreciate that. And he actually learns from her a bit. So that alone was worth the price of writing the book, of all the hours and the edits, just to get to that with the character and for myself.
That's so beautiful. That's so poignant. And I think that in the moment thing, you're right. I mean, really, I don't like to bright side things too much and say, well, this is the gift or whatever, but really, I think some of our folks some people with Alzheimer's or other dementias find a lot of anxiety and angst. And then there are these glimmers of, I'm just right here. And when we can meet them there, that is a beautiful moment. So, yeah.
If someone said to you today, my loved one has dementia, what would be your response?
It would be to enter their reality. And I think that sounds a little esoteric. I mean, the other way to put it, which kind of has a negative twang to it, is pick your battles, but it's also enter their reality. And I can just give you some examples to kind of illustrate that. So, for example, when my mom would sometimes call me Joe, Joe's her brother who passed away over 20 years ago, I would initially correct her. No, Uncle Joe is dead. It's me, Chato. That's my nickname in the family. It's me, Chato. I'm here. And she would get this kind of confused look for a moment. And then it just would kind of throw her off a bit. And I would be a little bit irritated. And then there's so that is I come to realize, and characters in the book come to realize, that's a little bit of a fact check that's not worth having. Like, what do you get out of that? I mean, Mom will probably in a bit maybe recognize who you really are. And what does it matter? What did you get by correcting her? You didn't win anything. You might be technically right, but kind of what's the point? And then the others, on the other hand, and this is an anecdote from the book. It's not too much of a spoiler, but Ezra is watching his mother, who clings to. She was a bit of a girly girl, so she likes her wedge-shaped shoes. But as she's a bit older now, she's a little bit wobbly and unsteady. And he sees her kind of wobbling as they're walking through a parking lot, and he thinks to himself, "Oh, I gotta get her some flat shoes so she doesn't fall." But he doesn't, because she loves them so much. And it makes him crazy, because, like, why are you still so vain at age 80 that you want heels? It's like all those kinds of thoughts you might have. But he lets it go, and sure enough, she does fall and hurt herself. And he just blames himself. Like, I knew it. I saw it coming, and I didn't do anything about it. So that might be a battle, and I've had a version of that in my own life that is worth having, where it's generally a question of a little bit of safety for mom or dad. And I know it's hard, and I know she doesn't like the flat shoes. They're not as cute. But man, I don't want to go to the ER again with a broken wrist. It's not worth it. So to enter the reality is, you have to kind of so another example is you my mom loves babies, and when we go to Starbucks, and so she'll sit there And if someone comes in, she'll take her walker, she'll roll up to them and she'll stare. And it's no big deal. People say, oh, beautiful baby all the time. But with her, the way she is now with the dementia, she doesn't have the kind of self-awareness to be like, well, 10 seconds of gushing is enough. It's going to get awkward after that. So she'll sit there for 20, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And this is a great lesson to me, is that I don't know what it is to a person, everyone where she's done that, they don't get weirded out. They just sense something's different with mom, and they see her big fat smile and how much the joy the baby's bringing to her. So I, rather than have my non-dementia, middle class, proper social contract in me, which says, you say, gush, what a beautiful baby. You look for 2 seconds and then you say, have a good day, and you leave. Mom doesn't have that anymore. So if I can just be with her and I realize it's my issue, I'm the one who's uptight about how they might respond. These people, like I just said, have no issue with it. Of course, you're complimenting their baby. Who doesn't want to have their baby complimented? And if it goes a little long, they get it. So that is something where I have to enter her reality and then just let it go and don't get uptight about it. So that's what I mean. And so it's picking battles, and it's trying to kind of see the world, not exactly through their eyes, but there is something about compassionate vision there that I can't quite put my finger on. Yeah.
That's very relatable to me. My mother was a teacher for 20 years and loved kids, so she would, she'd also gush over babies, but then she'd reach out to grab their little toes, and I'm like, Mom, we don't touch other people's babies, I try to do something. But you're right, people would get it. People are more aware these days of some of these things than they may have been in the past. But not everybody. Some people are weird, but usually they figure it out.
Back in her day, they did pinch toes and cheeks and maybe even pick up the baby and hold it.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
For
sure. Alfredo, can you tell us a little bit about Danny? Danny being another character in the book who was an old friend and is kind of a sounding board or Greek chorus, or I'm not sure exactly what to call him.
Yeah, he's both of those things. He's definitely a sounding board and a Greek chorus. So I chose to structure the book. It's got multiple timelines. Hopefully they're not too confusing, but we're meeting Ezra. Thank you. Good. We're meeting Ezra as he's confiding in an old friend from high school, Danny. So they've known each other forever. And he's, over the course of 2 or 3 days, he's telling his story. And this one I don't want to give away. Besides just confiding in a friend, he does have another motivation in approaching Danny in particular. But Danny is a kind of a Greek chorus, a surrogate for the reader. So Danny asks of Ezra the kind of questions I think a reader would be asking Ezra, like, well, what did this mean? And why did you do it? Why did you do that? How did you react this way? And hey, man, why are you beating yourself up over that? You should probably be beating yourself up over this. It's just that kind of conversational vibe. And Danny, I love him as a character. He's a cool, level-headed, unflappable guy, against Ezra's more neurotic, jumpy, high-strung guy. And I think I love their dynamic. And I think if the reader sticks with it, it really pays off as to why he's chosen Danny to confide.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you come prepared to read from your book?
Oh, yeah, I'd be happy to. Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, so Ruth had mentioned the kind of the humor. So I'd like to jump into a little passage where I'm gonna just plunge you into a class just to give you a flavor of the personalities and the characters, and just do a blinking light or scream at me if I go too long. It's pretty short, so I don't think it is, but please help me out if not. So all you need by the way of setup is there's a character here who has put together a med checklist for her father that she was very proud of, and in fact she shows it to the class. It's all great. But again, things change. That the checklist that worked yesterday might not work today. So they're all kind of sharing some of their embarrassments and their embarrassing moments. So I'll jump in. I was so angry when he called me a cunt. It had taken me 5 or 6 tries to get that stupid form right to where he could fill it out. I took a copy, wrote that word on it, and gave it to him at lunch. You made a killer form. That's great. You vented. That's less great, but it happened, said Vicky. You're not a robot. When he saw it, he got real angry and said he wasn't senile, said Phoebe. He wanted to know who wrote this. What did you tell him? Asked Jojo. I told him I did. And? Asked Tegan. He got angrier. Then he cried. I wanted to apologize, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. I didn't want to. I wanted him to hurt. Then I went to my room and cried. Then I signed up for this class. Psh. I heard someone make a disgusted psh sound. It was Sterling, his hands resting comfortably as ever on his belly. Don't worry about it, he said. You're all right. Pops was just having a bad day. Phoebe glanced at Sterling, looking at him like she wasn't sure if he meant what he said. She went on. I took the checklist to one of his doctor appointments once. They said it was great. A nurse told me I was a good daughter, but they didn't see me call him senile. Because you are a good daughter. I can tell these things, said Jojo. Nene says I have the gift to see into other people's souls. Well, if that's true, I'm fucked, said Alicia. The nurses were right. That sheet she made was a miracle. I don't think she really understood that. Between taking that pill out of the bottle I told her, bringing it up to his mouth, putting it in his mouth, picking up the pen, finding the right box to check on the sheet, and checking it off with a pen, there are a million things in Terrence's brain that could go wrong. I said, and your sheet helped him go right. That's a fucking miracle. The class stared at me. When you use your F-bombs judiciously, they have so much more impact. He had a bad moment, and so did you, I continued. There, you're even. Alicia was the next to speak up. Wow, you called him senile. How can you sleep at night, she asked. Someone call the cops. Alicia looked irritated. That's your big confession. Yeah, it is, said Phoebe. I feel lower than dog shit about it. Next time, get him a bowl of ice cream instead, said Carl. Huh? Asked Phoebe. She looked his way. We all did. His head had been tilted down in his legal pad. He just said it offhandedly without looking up. Now he looked up, then looked at Phoebe's way. Does your dad like ice cream? Yeah. What's his favorite flavor, dear? Strawberry. Get him a bowl of strawberry ice cream next time he calls you a cunt or before you call him senile. That's your solution, said Alicia. Yep. Works most of the time. He then peered over his glasses and smiled. But not all the time, he said. That's why I'm here, to figure out what to do the rest of the time. Carl, does it really fix the problem, the ice cream? Jojo sounded so hesitant, so hopeful. Like giving a barking dog a bone, said Carl. I usually feel better after ice cream, commented Finn. So, ice cream, said Vicky skeptically. Words, said Lily, aren't the only way to communicate. Sometimes they're the worst way. When I was a kid and was crying, said Tegan, Mom and Dad had their go-tos for me, gummy worms and Skittles. With enough sugar in front of me, I would stop crying and forget all about why I was crying. Sometimes I would cry just to get the candy. The way you whine about late-stage capitalism, bet your parents still give you candy to shut you up, said Vicky. No, they're both dead, said Tegan. For the first time, I saw the blood drain from Vicky's face. Oh, fuck, dude, that sucks. I'm very sorry, said Jojo. I thought he was going to add that her parents were in a better place now, but he didn't. Died in a car crash when I was 8. Said Sterling, shaking his head. Oh, that is so messed up, said Finn. Yeah, that's how I ended up with Aunt Dee Dee. She raised me. I'd like to think I could be at least half as good to her as she was to me. Tegan picked her phone back up, began scrolling. Then she stopped a moment. Her voice cracked, and she added, it's hard. Strawberry ice cream, said Carl. Try it next time. So that's a little bit of mostly dialogue, obviously, but I wanted to give you a sense of the interaction and just throw in a little tidbit that my original title for the book was Strawberry Ice Cream.
I was going to ask you. That was great. I really look forward to reading it. It sounds fantastic. I do want to ask you though about the title. Can you tell us a little bit about where that came from?
I sure can. So firstly, I want to just share with you that was a dialogue-heavy, very screenplay-like passage. For the folks out there who are looking for literary fiction, don't worry. There's plenty of more kind of fancy and descriptive things in there, but I did want to share because you were talking about humor, that piece. Okay, title. So the strawberry ice cream, I had sort of done a little poking around online when I was trying to figure out how to make Mom happy. And these websites and YouTube videos kept popping up about candy. And I'm like, well, of course, because they're, in a way, they're kind of going back to childhood, and candy does solve a lot of problems. I mean, I have 2 root canals, so I know it solves problems. So that's what I was getting into. And I noticed, wait a minute, my mom loves her decaf lattes. I mean, things like those kind of primal things, color, smell, taste, like when maybe some of the cognition and wordplay go away, those basic things, the cute baby, the sunset, those stick. Those are just such primal things. And they're really a great way to handle some of these more difficult moments. So I had that. I also had another title I had was Enjoy the Refreshments, which is a kind of little snide jibe at how shabby the school is. But in the end, my editor and some of my beta readers were like, yeah, those are cool and cryptic and kind of artsy, but I have no idea what the book is about from that title. And I had in my own sort of description, I did kind of a short synopsis with a couple chapters as I was sharing it. And I had used the phrase, I said I felt blindsided. This is me, Alfredo, talking. I felt blindsided. I was in this spin cycle with my mom, and someone's like, spin cycle, there's your title. And I hadn't even thought about it, but I was just talking about how I felt. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, oh, that's exactly the image that captures how I feel. And I think you can almost, between the cover illustration and that title, what the book is about. And so, yeah, while I think strawberry ice cream is cool, I think spin cycle is right, is exactly right.
Well, for sure. It's really catchy, and I can relate to that too. I was thinking it was like rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. It's like all the time you're just spinning. It's so
And by the way,
true.
that phrase that phrase is also in the book. Lather, rinse, repeat could have been another title.
Right,
The
right,
spin
right.
also in the
cycle, the spin cycle sucks everything dry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, you got it. I didn't want. Yes, you got that.
Yeah, when
That's
the
part of
spin
it.
cycle is when you get all the water out. So yeah,
Right.
squeeze.
Yeah.
So, Alfredo,
Okay.
can you tell us, I don't know, if Ruth or Marianne, if you had more? I wanted to invite Alfredo to tell us where we can find the book and where we can find you and what more might be coming and anything else you'd like our listeners to know.
Yeah, sure. Ruth, did you want to say anything first?
No, just it's great to finally meet you in person, or sort of in person.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. It is great to put faces and voices
Yeah,
to
and congratulations on the book. I think it's just it's a great addition to AlzAuthors and to the collection.
Yeah,
And
thank
Thank
you. And
you,
if I
Ruth.
didn't say it,
benefit from it.
up top, I reached out to you initially because I admire what you do. So I'm just super grateful and honored to be included in the family here. So that's a big deal to me. So thank you for that. That's number one.
Right.
Okay, as to how to get the book about me, well, I suppose the easiest thing is to type in Spin Cycle and Alfredo at Amazon, and it'll take you right to it. The book is available paperback, hardcover, ebook, and audiobook. But I'm also going to recommend my website because and I'll explain why in a second. So my website is my name, alfredobotello.com. I'll spell that. It's kind of a mouthful. ALFREDO, B as in boy, OTELLO.com. So what you get there at the website that you might not get at the Barnes and Noble or the Amazon site is you get a little synopsis of this book as well as my prior novel, and also it touches on wellness through words, the anthology I had mentioned. And I didn't want to make a kind of dry author website, so I also another part of my life is that I've co-owned 2 dive bars for about 25 years. I now have just one. But I include things like all the flyers we made for our DJs, just because I guess I want to give the reader a sense of who I am and in all dimensions, because in a past life I was an architect and so on. So design is important to me. So there's bar flyers, which I think are just kind of cool. And there's playlists of music. I'm a music freak and extremely opinionated about it. So there's power pop and new wave. And so anyways, I feel like the website you'll give you kind of a sense of me as a person, as well as the book stuff. And then of course, from the website, you just click on the book covers and it'll take you right to the site to buy it. And as for what's next, my next novel is called Convergence. And I don't want to say too much about this to spoil it, but let me tell you that 3 complete strangers enter a 7-Eleven at Reno at 8:11 one evening, and stuff happens. And the theme, if the theme of Spin Cycle is compassion, where did it go? How did I lose it? Can I get it back? All those things. I typically work with my novels. There's an umbrella theme. So my first novel, it was validation, this Spin Cycle. is compassion. The next one is escape. And by escape, I mean, I think we all sometimes want to just hop in our car and drive away from life, go 2 or 3 hours and just never look back. That feeling, for whatever reason that we have it, is the theme of the next one. So I'm about almost a rough draft in. So I hope that answers, your question that you asked about what's next and where you can find the spin cycle.
That's great. And I just want to invite everyone to visit our website at AlzAuthors.com to read your essay, which you have written for us exclusively. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. Yeah, I was happy to do it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such a pleasure and so much fun. And I really appreciate you being here with us. Really love having you in the family and delighted to have more fiction in our group. And also hearing from a male caregiver, that's something that we don't have as many. And that's really wonderful to have a son's perspective, because this is a family thing that affects everybody. And it's nice to have your voice. So really appreciate that. And thank you, Ruth and Marianne. And
Thank you for including me.
yeah, no, it's terrific. It's terrific. And Alfredo, thank you so much for your time and for your lovely
Thank you,
work.
Alfredo.
Yeah,
My
thank
pleasure,
you.
you guys. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you for listening to Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia, an AlzAuthors podcast. For more details on this episode, please see the show notes. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a review and subscribe to it on whichever platform you use to listen to your favorite podcasts. For more information on AlzAuthors, please visit AlzAuthors.com. While you're there, be sure to browse our online bookstore, where you will find hundreds of carefully vetted books on Alzheimer's and dementia. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Please email your thoughts on the podcast to alzauthors@gmail.com. We are a 501c3 charitable organization, totally reliant on donations to do what we do. If our authors' stories move you, please consider contributing to our cause. Remember, you are not alone. One can sing a lonely song, but we chose to form a choir and create harmony.